Hey everybody, I'm Jack Reeder with Future Pastimes, and I'm a designer on Dune-themed board games, among other things. Games like Arrakis: Dawn of the Fremen, Dune: A Game of Conquest and Diplomacy, or just Dune Conquest as we call it, and expansions for the classic Dune board game, the 2019 edition, all from Gale Force 9. And in light of the recent trailer for Part 2 of the Villeneuve Dune movie, there's a lot of Dune mania going on around me, and I've had a lot of people ask me not only what I've thought of that Dune, but the other Dune productions, in particular the Dune miniseries that was on Sci-Fi several years ago. And so in this video, I'm going to be talking about my thoughts on the miniseries, what is good, what is not so good, do I recommend it, and some of the noteworthy elements of there. So first and foremost, I absolutely recommend that you watch that miniseries if you can find a way to do so, because it's not too bad. It's actually pretty good. And I think there are basically three reasons why I think it's definitely worth your time. The first is that it is pretty thorough. Doing it as a miniseries meant that they could include a lot more of the book. Now with Villeneuve, he took that first book and he's splitting it into two movies, but even that being the case, there's a lot of material that was cut out. And you'll hear Super Dune nerds like me complain about the banquet scene not being included in there, even though it looked like they maybe filmed some or all of it, and but all that was cut out. Well, you do get a banquet scene in the miniseries. And in fact, they improved, I think, on a lot of elements of that banquet scene, in particular by having Irulan be a character who is there. So she's not actually there in the book, but it really elevates that character. And I really liked that they included a lot of stuff. There's a lot of other really interesting elements of the book that certainly weren't part of the Lynch movie, and may or may not be in part 2 of the Villeneuve Dune series. But there's a lot in there. Didn't really appreciate that they had the miniseries start off with the House Atreides is already on their way to Arrakis. So all that stuff leading up to it wasn't really a part of it, and that is a shame. But they make up for a lot of other stuff. Generally, the acting is pretty good in it. It's pretty well cast. A couple of areas where like, oh, that was all right. But by and large, a pretty competent cast. William Hurt, pretty good Duke Leto. The writing is also pretty good. The effects didn't really hold up even back then. But the way that I look at the Dune miniseries is, in many ways, it feels to me like a stage production of Dune. And if you watch it with that kind of a context, it's brilliant. It is a fantastic production of Dune. We're at a stage production. And so it, some of the CGI is clearly CGI. And again, even back in the day, you were like, all right, CGI. But it's fine. It's fine for what it needs to do. And so they do put in a lot of detail and a lot of interesting elements in there that tell the really most broad version of the Dune story. The second reason that I think that the miniseries is worth your time is because they actually did a sequel, Children of Dune, another miniseries that is actually Dune Messiah and Children of Dune mashed up together into one narrative. And I really think it was a smart way to do that, because I think Dune Messiah on its own is going to be challenging as a movie. I'll be curious to see how Villeneuve tackles it. And similarly, Children of Dune, also kind of challenging. So they took the best of both of those books and combined them. And they recast a number of the actors, largely because of availability. So a different actress for Jessica, actually Alice Krieg, who they wanted to be in the first movie, but she wasn't available. A new actor for Stilgar, a new actor for Duncan, Idaho. And I think in every case, it was actually in many ways, better actors overall in all of those cases. You have Susan Sarandon in there playing Wensicia, who technically is supposed to be younger than Irulan and clearly isn't. So you have to just kind of, get past that. She's a terrific actress, and it's a good portrayal. It's a really, in some ways, I like Children of Dune better than Dune. I just thought there was a much better story that they were doing. It was really interesting the way they do it. James McAvoy plays Paul's son, Leto, and I just thought they handled a lot of those story elements really well. And then the third reason that I think it's worth your time is because it's Dune. More Dune, the merrier, I think, especially as we wait in anticipation of the November release of the film. I recently rewatched the miniseries, and I'll be watching the Children of Dune follow-up here in the next couple of weeks to sort of satisfy my appetite for all things Dune. So I've been playing a lot of Dune, and that's great, and all the other Dune-themed games. But yeah, I'm a visual person. I enjoy the cinema, and I've watched the Lynch version many times. So as I'm waiting for part 2, I'm going to watch more and more Dune. And so I encourage you to do it as well. Some of the stuff that I like about the Dune miniseries overall, I really enjoyed the interaction between Paul and Chani. I thought that was pretty good. I really liked that Chani as well. And I liked the Fremen culture, the way it was portrayed. It was very lived in. It really felt like it was very evocative of the book and that culture. And so I thought they did a good job with that. A lot of people liked Ian McNeese's portrayal of the Baron. He seems, in many ways, the most like the Baron from the book. He is plotting and conniving and treacherous as well. The Stellan Skarsgård portrayal is supposed to be more of a pensive Baron and relishing, but not an over-the-top characterization. So I appreciate that. I like that. But Ian McNeice has a pretty playful and an entertaining portrayal of the Baron. So I liked, I enjoyed watching that. I thought he was pretty good choice, pretty good casting for the miniseries. And I really enjoyed the interaction between Jessica and Alia in the miniseries. I thought the young actress they got for Alia did a really good job. She really helped to bring that sort of otherworldliness that Alia has, and how she just can't really relate to anyone else. I thought it was well done. And I think there's lots of great moments. There's lots of good lines, and it's very entertaining. Some of the stuff that doesn't hit well with me, like the costuming, I get it. It's the far future, and who knows what fashion will be like. There were some strange choices in there that I could have done without. But again, you get used to it, and you're fine. You're fine with it in the end. I think it's not too distracting, and it feels like a television production sometimes, especially where you're looking at certain footage and the pacing and the commercial breaks that are there. But I've got the DVD, so it keeps going. But it feels like a commercial break is happening. So there's some of that again is a little bit distracting, but again overall not that big of a deal. I don't have a whole lot that I complain about with this production of Dune. I think it's really good. It's really interesting. I would have loved to have seen a much better arena scene. They didn't really have an arena scene in there. They didn't have one in the Lynch movie either. So at least we know we're getting that in the Villeneuve movie. So it's you win some here, you lose some there, that sort of thing. But yeah, it's worth it, especially if you can then watch the Children of Dune, because I think that's a fantastic production, and that will be the bar that must be met and hopefully passed if Villeneuve does part 3 or anything that does follow up after this movie that comes out in November. So that's just my brief look at my thoughts on the miniseries that was done by Sci-Fi. And it was one of their most watched things that Sci-Fi ever did. And I thought for good reason. So I watched it when it first aired, and picked up the DVD immediately when it was available. And I have watched it many times over the years. It's a good time. It's a good placeholder while you wait for the next big budget version of Dune to hit the screens. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are. If you've seen the miniseries, did you love it? Did you hate it? How does it compare with other versions of Dune that you've seen? Yeah, anything else that you want to ask about or talk about in the comments, let me know. That's it for this one. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again soon.